Welcome to today's Explainer, guys. We're jumping right into the beating heart of Maharashtra's Bhakti tradition. We're talking about a saga spanning centuries, one that's packed with intense human emotion, a massive social revolution, and a type of divine love that's going to totally flip your expectations about mythology.
So, let's kick things off with a pretty big mystery. Lord Vitthal, who's an incarnation of Krishna, and Goddess Rukmini are basically the ultimate divine couple, right? But if you head down to their sacred town of Pandharpur today, you're not going to find them side by side in one main sanctum. No, they are physically separated. They live in entirely distinct shrines. So, why? Well, it boils down to a deeply emotional story, and the answer is honestly going to change how you look at divine relationships forever.
But hey, before we unravel that whole mystery, we need to know exactly who we're talking about. The legendary Saint Tukaram actually gave us this brilliant breakdown of the name Vithoba, which is another name for Lord Vitthal. He split it up like this: V meaning knowledge, and Thoba meaning a storehouse. So the deity we're looking at today isn't some distant, untouchable ruler of the cosmos. He's literally the ultimate, accessible storehouse of knowledge and just boundless compassion.
Section 1. The Power of Duty. Pundalik's Epic Transformation.
Let's look at how the foundation of Pandharpur was actually built. And spoiler alert, it doesn't start with a god. It starts with a seriously flawed guy named Pundalik. He definitely didn't start out as a saint. In fact, he was a pretty terrible son, totally neglecting and even mistreating his aging parents after he got married. When they all went on a pilgrimage to Kashi, he and his wife rode up on horseback, literally forcing his frail parents to walk on foot and groom the animals. Pretty awful, right? But then everything flips. They make a pit stop at the ashram of sage Kukuda. Pundalik sees the sage's absolute, unwavering devotion to his own parents, and it hits him like a ton of bricks. He has this profound awakening. From that exact moment, for the rest of eternity, Pundalik completely changes. He realizes that serving his parents is the absolute highest spiritual truth, and he prioritizes that above literally everything else.
Now, Pundalik's devotion becomes so legendary that it actually grabs the attention of the divine. Just picture this cinematic moment. Lord Krishna himself shows up at Pundalik's front door, disguised as a pilgrim. But Pundalik, he's right in the middle of massaging his elderly father's feet. He realizes God is standing at his door, but to him, his duty to his parents comes first. He doesn't just drop everything and jump up. Where most people would, roll out the red carpet or offer a golden throne, Pundalik just grabs a random humble brick lying nearby, tosses it outside for God to stand on, and basically says, "Hold on, wait right there." And that right there is the absolute core of our story. That simple, tossed brick transforms into an eternal divine pedestal.
Take a look at this stance, because it is completely unlike any other deity you'll see. This is Lord Vitthal. He is standing patiently on that very same tossed brick, with his hands just resting calmly on his hips. No weapons, no grand throne, just standing there. This posture is the ultimate symbol of infinite, unconditional patience. It shows a God who is utterly accessible and just ready to listen. It is the literal embodiment of divine humility. Think about it. God is quite literally waiting for his devotee to finish his earthly chores.
All right, moving into Chapter 2, The Dignity of Divine Love. Goddess Rukmini's Choice.
Okay, so we've got a god who waits. But what about the goddess? Let's pivot this explainer from filial duty over to the intensely emotional saga of Goddess Rukmini. This brings us right back to our original mystery about those separated shrines, and it all revolves around the messy complexities of divine romance. As the story goes, Lord Vitthal was hosting this massive spiritual assembly with all these prominent sages. It's a huge, bustling gathering. Right in the middle of it all, Goddess Rukmini walks in. As his divine queen, she obviously expected a warm welcome. But Vitthal was so wrapped up in his spiritual debates that he totally missed her. He didn't even acknowledge she was there. And man, Rukmini felt that sharp, very human sting of emotional neglect. But she didn't throw a fit or cause a scene. Feeling totally disrespected, she just quietly turned around and left, retreating all by herself into the dense Dindarvan forest nearby.
Of course, Vitthal eventually realizes he messed up. He was absolutely heartbroken that she was gone and wandered all over looking for her. He finally finds her and, naturally, tries to make amends. But how they resolve this is just fascinating. They both agreed to stay in Pandharpur, but they set up two distinct shrines right there on the banks of the Chandrabhaga River. So, they are forever united in this eternal love, but they remain physically separated to honor the boundaries of human dignity and self-respect.
And the whole point of that is captured beautifully right here. Love does not mean losing oneself. Distance does not mean disconnection. Divine love is built on respect. Honestly, this myth is incredibly relatable to modern relationships, don't you think? Rukmini set a profound, hard boundary.
She proved that even the highest, most supreme kind of love still requires attention, acknowledgement, and emotional presence. That is a massive takeaway for all of us about self-worth.
Chapter 3 now. The Purity of Innocent Faith. Child Namdev's Despair.
So, we've covered duty, and we've looked at romantic dignity. Now, let's get into the pure, unfiltered innocence of a child's faith. One day, this young boy named Namdev is told by his mom to go offer the Naivediyam, the food offering, to Lord Vitthal down at the temple. He places the food down, and with complete innocent literalism, he just sits there waiting for God to physically eat it. When the stone idol obviously doesn't move, Namdev is crushed. He straight up refuses to accept a silent God. In total despair, he starts banging his head against the Lord's feet. And seeing this absolute, unshakable innocence, Lord Vitthal is practically forced to step in. He physically manifests right in front of the kid and actually eats the food.
The cool part is, the aftermath of this story is literally carved into the temple's architecture today. Namdev grew up to be one of the absolute greatest saints of the tradition, but he asked for a really unique favor. He requested that the very first step leading into the temple be named after him, Namdev Chi Pyari. Why? Because he wanted every single pilgrim who visits Vitthal to step on him so he could eternally feel the dust of the devotee's feet. It forever cements his legacy of innocence right into the physical stone of Pandharpur.
Section 4. The Living Legacy, the Egalitarian Warkari Movement.
Now, notice how these super intimate, emotional legends, Pundalik's sense of duty, Rukmini's dignity, Namdev's sheer innocence, they didn't just fade away as old bedtime stories. They actually snowballed into this massive, living social revolution. You have to remember, before this movement, religion was largely defined by rigid, orthodox ritualism. It was highly exclusive, totally controlled by priests, and it divided everyone using strict caste hierarchies. But Pandharpur sparked something radically different: internal, egalitarian bhakti. This new wave put all the focus on intense, personal love for the divine, totally bypassing the rigid, old-school orthodox rules.
The Warkari tradition that came out of this is just incredibly democratic. It actively throws out caste discrimination and all those strict exclusionary rituals. Instead, it's all about internal emotional adoration, and that's exactly what bhakti is. It was led by poet-saints, everyday people like Naneshwar and Tukaram, who spoke and wrote in the language of the masses, not just the elite. They shared their teachings through abhanghas, which are these incredibly soul-stirring hymns. And the ultimate peak of all this, the epic Wari pilgrimage.
2 million. Just let that staggering number sink in for a second. That is the sheer scale of the modern Wari pilgrimage today. Every single year, around the time of Ashadhi Ekadashi, nearly 2 million devotees pack up, leave their homes, and form these massive, flowing processions. They walk barefoot for hundreds of kilometers, singing those very same abhangas, all just to catch a quick glimpse of Lord Vitthal waiting patiently on his brick in Pandharpur. It is literally breathtaking.
So, let's tie this whole explainer together. Pandharpur isn't just an ancient temple, it's a living foundation built on all these different facets of human love. Think about it. You've got the pillar of filial piety from Pundalik, showing us that service to your parents is supreme. You've got dignity and love from Rukmini, teaching us that respect and emotional presence are absolute musts. You've got innocent faith from Namdev, proving that pure belief really can move mountains. And finally, you have this beautiful egalitarianism from the Warkaris, reminding us that true devotion totally transcends any social divisions we invent.
We're going to wrap up our explainer today with a question that's directly inspired by Lord Vitthal, just standing there patiently, hands on his hips, waiting on a simple brick. In our crazy modern world of constant rushing around, endless phone notifications, and zero attention spans, who are you willing to wait patiently for? Give that some thought. Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible journey today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.